God bless. Make sure my mic is up. I wanted to begin today before we get into what we're going to talk about, which is really aligned with soul focus. The entire episode will be driven around focus and how to properly divide your focus. Otherwise, your focus will divide you. And I'd be remiss to not begin with a level of humility around the realization that you might be somewhere today, like I was this morning. The alarm clock goes off, the momentum for where you're at sort of peaks because you can't always be high, right? You can't always be elevated and just in this blissful state of, the word is delight, ironically. So if you've been with me long enough, you know we talk about dividing your focus between a love-based consciousness and a fear-based consciousness, which a lot of practices, and where I've learned this one specifically as far as nomenclature, the Kabbalists talk about the plague and they talk about the light. So essentially, if you think about God and how God creates, and God creates through, or created through language and word, the last sort of piece of the creation covenant, you feel it, you think it, you speak it. We could be speaking ourselves into delight and speaking ourselves into plague, which ultimately aligns with where I believe you can be speaking yourself into love and speaking yourself into fear. And fear can be hate, and fear can be any sort of derivative of that level of emotional consciousness. The reality that I'll share with you, what I wanted to drive around humility, is waking up. When you said you would wake up and deciding, you know what, I'm not with it today. And what that comes with. And I just think that if you are where you might be in a focused perspective, driving towards a level of love and delight for your life, whatever it is you see at whatever scale, it's sort of like the inflection point in the movie. You start off as this person with potential, you see something, you start making moves towards it, and then there's always a point in the movie where you get tested. And then you really have to decide, do I stop here or do I persist forward? And usually the test is something that is obvious. Something happens where you get really pushed back, you get really pushed down. Maybe you even lose a battle against somebody you thought you would win against. And maybe that person you lost to is somebody you will have to face again. And for us, obviously here, consciousness is life. It's your reality. It's the environment you create for yourself. It's your spirit. This morning, my spirit was conflicted. I just did not want to move. I wasn't really feeling it. And so I prayed myself back into sleep, and I immediately started to apologize to God. Like, yo, I'm sorry. I don't want to go pray today. I don't want to record today. And the plague level consciousness, the fear derived consciousness, started to rationalize. Yo, you go live at 4:00. I know your watch hours have been going up, but nobody really watches live. You get maybe a single viewer. And even when people do watch, maybe you get, even with your 1,600, which is not a lot, but it also is, let me not demean it, subscribers, you know, how many are coming back? You're only retaining about 200 to 300. And then when they do come back, maybe you get 10, maybe you get a dozen on a good day. Maybe you get one singular or 2 likes. My point being, you can lose appreciation that the outcome, yes, there's a reality around, I thought about this before I click record. We really dismiss and use the power of social acceptance to our advantage and disadvantage. We talk about it shouldn't matter what people think and go do your thing and the stage is irrelevant. But then naturally we applaud everyone who gets on stage and dominates. And I've said this regularly, we're always on stage. And nobody wants to think about a life where you go on stage and nobody's watching. You just don't. You want to believe that something you're doing is impactful, that's bigger than you. That's self-actualization. You say, oh my God, what a life. It's bigger than me. How can I contribute to life? I believe that every human has that potential and has that in them. The reality to that is we understand this socially. That's why we promote this socially. That's why we applaud when people are on stage. And that's why we attach a level of success description to certain people, because what it looks like perceptually is natural for anybody to want to clamor for. And language is important, and I'm using specific words because I think they're relevant to the conversation. But a lot of times, depending on where you're at and depending on how much momentum you got, you get to a point where you're on stage, and maybe it's not just that it's somebody, but it's the same 10 people. And so you start to get into that plague of, is this really worth it? Was this actually intended for me? Is God really on my side? I don't want to do this today. That's life. But when you're focused the way that we are probably focused, the way that I hope you're focused, that divide will come. And so I want to offer the possibility that I'm here because, all right, fine, I missed my mark. I quit on myself. I broke my will. My will broke me. I quit on my will. That's what it comes down to. I didn't will myself through. I've done it before. Today, I was just not with it. And if you're feeling that way, I think part of what is, and I've done this, we're now in May. I've probably had this 3 or 4 times on the mic. I used to be able to predict it. This one kind of came out of nowhere. Apologize to yourself. Accept that you might have quit. And then know that, all right, fine, I didn't get up at 3 o'clock like I usually do. Accept that I did get some benefit from it. I slept a little bit longer. That's a good thing. You might need some rest. But if it conflicts with what you really wanted to do and where you really wanted to be, because it's natural to, when you're here in the moment, like, oh, no, I'm going to quit. And then you let it go. And then you reach later in the day and you kind of start to reflect and like, man, I just quit on myself. That can snowball. And next thing you know, one day turns into 2, turns into a year, and you're right back where you started. And then you really regret. That's how regret builds. I assure you that's not going to happen to me. I'll be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the morning. Pray yourself through it. Talk yourself through it. Focus your way through it and accept yourself for it. It's like the day, they talk about having cheat days if you're really trying to work on your physical appearance, because it gets difficult to eat the correct way all the time. Accept, I'm going to eat these pancakes and this ice cream today. Accept it. All right, it's gone. I really do wish I would have just pushed through. I quit on myself. We good. We recover. We got punched in the mouth. You wipe the blood off, and then you go. Let's get busy. Let's check the chat real quick, because it is a different time of the day. God bless, man. All right. If you don't divide your focus will divide you. Let me tell you this, and I'm sorry that I'm distracted real quick. I just wanted to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. You keep wondering where your energy went, but you never asked where your attention is living. You can't say God, source, the infinite, whatever you believe in comes first if your calendar says otherwise. You cannot say you're building legacy if your habits are built for escape. Hello, snooze button. That was me today. Your life doesn't drift by accident. It drifts by inattention. And every day you fail to divide your focus by intention, your dominion gets divided for you. You won't lose power. You'll just leak it. You won't lose purpose. You'll just trade it for productivity. You won't fall. You'll just slowly forget who you are. Make sure my thing just went blank. I hope this is going. Warning. This transmission exposes the spiritual cost of distraction. Side effects may include feeling busy but perpetually behind, depletion that mimics laziness but is actually misalignment, and emotional reactivity from spiritual disconnection. Welcome to Raw 4 at 8:38 a.m. Epoch 2, day 133. This isn't about doing less. It's about dividing your dominion on purpose before the world slices it for you, because we know you got a lot to do. It's funny when I read the side effects, I think about those commercials where people are jumping around, happy to take medication. But the side effects are like, you might die tomorrow after the first pill, and people are still like, oh, hey, give me that. Let me feel it. All right, here's our concept overview. Focus is a spiritual filter, not a to-do list. This is what we'll learn and talk about. Focus isn't just attention, it's agreement. Every day, you subconsciously agree to what matters most. And if that agreement isn't authored, it's inherited, here's the plague, from fear, fatigue, or false frameworks. Here is what you will actually learn. Why daily focus is a covenant, not a calendar entry. How spiritual leakage begins with subconscious attention drift. Why task switching fragments memory and identity. How to recalibrate your focus as a dominion weapon. Lock and load it, become a sniper. And a simple audit to reclaim authorship over your daily blizzo. I do feel good today. I hope you're feeling good today. I woke up still feeling good. I just decided I wanted a couple of hours extra in the bed. The visual metaphor today is the unguarded gate. Picture this. Immerse yourself. Close your eyes and leave one open if it makes you feel better. Imagine you own a fortress. Not just a home, not just a kingdom, but a territory that was assigned to you from birth. And it's beautiful because why wouldn't it be? It has high walls. It has deep wells. It has sacred chambers that only you know about. A place where your thoughts are stored, your purpose is preserved, and your energy is replenished. But every morning, you forget to join row at 4. You forget to lock the gate, not because you're reckless, but because you are distracted. And while you're chasing motion in the outer courts, uninvited visitors are walking through your mind. You are being infiltrated. The plague is real. And while they are infiltrating and walking through your mind, taking your time, borrowing your bandwidth, renting space in your nervous system for free, gratis, and you let them there. You didn't lose dominion. You just misplaced attention. And now you are protecting less because you are filtering nothing. There's no surveillance, no audit, just open access to everything God gave you. That is how you leak. You don't get attacked. You get accessed. You hear what I'm saying to you? Think about the IT world. Information security. It's the biggest thing. You want to protect a breach. You want to protect someone accessing you. Let's get into my personal perspective. There's an authority audit I run every day. I talk about this, Dominion Divide. And Dominion Divide daily isn't a cute calendar trick, although it's kind of pretty. It's a system firewall. It's the way I govern my spirit, my will, my emotion on purpose. If you were with me from the start, I also quit on purpose today. I accept that. I move on. And it's because I don't want alignment. I want authorship. It's my pen. I'm writing chapters and verses, right? I'm not here to perform. I'm here to govern. So every move I make, every task I take on, every conversation, every text, every meeting, every muscle I train has to answer one question. Does this align with dominion? I'm not asking if it feels good. I'm asking if it maintains focus, because dominion ain't about ownership. It's about spiritual interoperability. What do we say here? One role at a time, one mask at a time, one mission in motion. And even if I'm in a system I didn't design, a lot of us are, I still bring system grade authorship to how I show up in it. If this is not my business, that's cool. I'm here. I get busy. I'm practicing for my business because all of it is my dominion if it all runs through my alignment. That's why I move like this. If the conversation doesn't build me, I kill it. If the calendar entry doesn't match covenant, I cancel it. If the assignment doesn't match my internal governance, I still execute, but I treat it like preparation for what I've already claimed in spirit. Because if I'm going to lead anything, a family, a company, a calling, a generation, then I have to be the most aligned system in every room I walk into. And the only way I can do that is to audit my focus like a spiritual currency. I'm not just showing up anymore. I'm surveying every room and dividing everything I do into covenant and clutter. Because divided attention is spiritual drift. And spiritual drift is disguised obedience. So if I feel off, I sleep in. I don't recalibrate my schedule. I recalibrate my system. I ask questions like this. Where am I right now? Does this action echo my apex? I know where I'm at. I know where I'm at. Does it align? Is this priority mine or is it inherited? That's the audit. That's the divide. That is dominion daily. You can actually go through the process of quitting on yourself on purpose with authorship. I'm still aligned to my priority. Yo, God, I'm gonna tap out for a few. I need a couple of hours today, right? And I've talked ad nauseum too about be careful. That might be the day you miss something. You got to accept that. But because we're so emotionally sensitive and it's difficult to manage your emotions because sometimes things spring up. And here's a reality too. The uncontrollables, as much as I believe you got to wear a mask of strength, and I talked about especially masculinity as a man, that's just my personal perspective and belief. Hear me out. I'm providing protection regularly. But because of where I'm at, the compound interest I've collected and the debt I've collected in my life to get me to this juncture before I made the pivot, it comes back. That's sort of how the devil, if you would, the plague of consciousness and the fear-derived spirit comes to say hello. It checks in on you. And it doesn't like creep up on you and give you chills running down your spine because it runs up on you from behind in the middle of the night. No, it comes up to you very nice. Yo, just tap out today. This go with those, go have that after work release. Go scroll a little bit longer. Go spend a little more time outside of your apex. So the focus, when we talk about consciousness, in order to battle that demon, that ugly emotion, you got to be divided into, because we talked about this also, there's micro for the macro. You have an apex. Yo, I'm all in on I'm going to miss my point I want to go back to too, about what comes up. But I'm all in on the do you rules. So every micro movement has to align, right? We know that. Everything I do is for the do you rules, inclusive of how I parent, how I manage my relationship with my wife, my children, my 9 to 5, which I got to get to shortly. But because you're providing protection and because you can't control everything and because you're already, like we talk about, part of the prayer I've adopted is sort of trying to wipe the soul clean of memory. Wipe it clean of memory and get reattached to root and come back as close to God as you can and then recreate. Yeah, you're recreating, but like in IT, in the information technology space, when you implement new systems, you're not starting from what they would say is greenfield. when you decide to pivot for your life, you could wipe the slate clean mentally, but you've already had a lot of residual happen from all the choices you've made. And because you can't escape that, because you've already created, because you already live in an environment that is constantly giving you feedback, and collective consciousness works the way it does, and fear-derived, plague-based, devilish consciousness comes for you to say hello every now and again, you start to absorb all the uncontrollables. And as much as you work on praying, meditating, compartmentalizing, and staying focused and aligned on an apex, you get the weight of what's going on that you can't control. And then because you know so deeply you can't control it, and you're at the mercy of what's going on, it could be in your 9 to 5. It could be with your finances you didn't expect. It could be with loss that you didn't expect. They could be somebody who you forgot about for a little while because you had to cut them off because you had to move, and all of a sudden something. There's so many things that you're like, oh man, this really happened. And you're consciously saying like, I can't let this affect me. But we're emotional, and you process that, and you maybe haven't prayed on it enough. And so you run into the danger of suppressing the uncontrollables. You don't accept it and release it in a way that says, okay, cool. Of course, I'm still going, but you're going with that friction building up. That's why we start cleaning out a closet, right? That's how you build dead bodies. Point being, there's a lot that could be going on that you're absorbing because you're trying to get here, but everything that was here is still pulling at you, and you're pulling and you're moving, but you're dragging weight with you. And left unchecked, the weight gets heavy. And you wake up, why am I feeling this way? Sometimes it's not because nobody came to watch the show. It's because there's a lot of other things going on that you haven't appreciated yet that's out of your control, and you just got to kind of go through it. And it's not going to go away right now. It's not. It may never go away. But I can't let that divide me. So there's a divide between I'm at a macro. I know what the big holistic goal is, so I focus on the micro details. Anything that's micro or macro outside of it, I ignore it. Because if you do, we talked about the other day, you build many different basements. You've started building many different homes, many different dreams, many different goals that are half built, maybe quarter built, only have a basement that you walk down into. Every now and then, you're gonna be like, oh, I remember this. That divides you spiritually because you're conflicted. Your spirit is like, which one is it? Where do you want to go? Right? Okay. Let's get into the black book. We call this spiritual bandwidth, or we're talking about spiritual bandwidth. Spiritual bandwidth is not infinite. Focus is a covenant. Hear me. Focus isn't free. It's a sacred utility of your spirit. Wherever it flows, your authorship follows. Here's some of the system teachings. Attention is spiritual signal. In neuroscience, attention is a selective filter. What you focus on determines what the brain encodes as reality. Repeated attention literally changes your memory. We talked about represent, what you represent. So repeated attention changes your memory, your perception, and your identity. In neuroscience, your brain, spiritual terms, what you don't consciously claim, you subconsciously serve. If you don't assign your focus to covenant, your focus gets leased out to content. You become the sum of what was urgent, not what was authored. Goes back to you have the pen, or you writing your own chapter and verse. Now, here's 3 phantom costs of misfocus. There's cognitive drift. Switching tasks rapidly decreases accuracy and memory retention. You don't forget because you're overwhelmed. You forget because you're scattered. Has that happened to you? You're working on one thing. Oh, I forgot about this. And you go to work on the other thing. I forgot about that. And then you forgot about everything you were doing because you're scattered. That's that I believe some of the terminology on it, the monkey brain. But I think, a lot of times we're talking about burnout and being overwhelmed. But if you don't come to, this is part of what I'm learning too. If you don't complete a task, your spirit feels unresolved because, again, you're half finishing things. So imagine we talk about pecking. You're pecking here, you're pecking there, you're pecking here, you're pecking there. Nothing ever gets done, and you wonder why you feel incomplete because you're consciously incomplete. So now you feel overwhelmed because there's nothing to look back on or reflect to say, oh, at least I finished this. So I can say, yo, I didn't get up at 3 o'clock today, but I got 100 and something days straight, right? Spiritual fragmentation. Unfocused attention divides emotional clarity. When you don't know what you are building, you start craving results from things you never committed to. There's also the influence spiritually. What are you craving results from that is not really for you, that you've decided you want to commit to? Are you actually committed? Emotionally, now you're all over the place. So if consciously, if we talk about the creation covenant, words are the last piece. We're 80% visual. You look at the world that's already completed. What you see in your environment's already a completed thought because it's a completed emotion. So you feel, you think, you speak. And when your attention is divided, you have no emotional clarity. You're essentially fractured emotionally. You're not really feeling anymore. You're just going off of what you're thinking, off of what you're seeing. Not remembering to come back to source, which is here. What's your commitment? Emotional leakage. When the spirit is overwhelmed by unfiltered data, the body enters autopilot. You start moving out of obedience to momentum, not to mission. Focus is not a productivity tool. It's a spiritual signal repeater. It tells God and your system, the environment and consciousness, the collective, because we're all attracting an environment and a world that we live in. This is what I'm stewarding. This is what I trust myself with. This is what I believe matters. And what you believe matters manifests. Ooh. Do you not hear that? What you believe matters manifests. Who was in the chat to catch that, man? Oh, hold on. I got to pause. We got somebody in the chat. God bless. I want to know how to stay calm because I'm very nervous right now. Okay. Dean, my brother, my sister, but I don't want to presume, my life experiencer. What are you nervous about? And you don't have to type it here in the chat, but start asking yourself, what are you nervous about? And then figure out if what you're nervous about is relevant to where you're at right now. Where are you? What are you doing? Are you safe? Are you in an environment where you are protected? Maybe you need God. Maybe you got to pray a little bit. Maybe you got to go silent. Maybe you need to find calmness and strength through silence. I would ask myself, what are you nervous about, my friend? And then question if you need to be nervous about it. Question where it might be stemming from. Have you told yourself you're nervous? I know how this sounds, but you got to, when you start to also talk to yourself this way and question yourself this way and reflect this way, you can start to drive towards a little more of the love-based consciousness. If you're nervous, I'm nervous every day when I wake up. What are you nervous about when you wake up? You got life. When you wake up, you were just given breath. You were given an opportunity. Are you okay? Are you in danger? If you're not in danger, let's talk about what we're nervous about. Are you struggling with your career? Are you struggling in relationships? Are you struggling at home? Do you just wake up nervous? If you do, also consider how you put yourself to sleep and sleep state, because that's entirely your subconscious. You're taking something with you into that realm that when you transition back into the light and you wake up, it's permeating and perpetuating. We talk about that on this channel, processing and coming to completion about where you're at to close your evening. Otherwise, that stays in your nervous system. So your nervous system, my friend, is triggered. What is triggering your nervous system? Start with the fundamentals. Are you safe? What are you telling yourself? We just talk about what you believe matters. How to go to daily activities. Okay. Do you have daily activities planned? If you don't have daily activities planned, plan them. Plan them in advance. Visualize them. If you have daily activities planned, but you're a little nervous about going to do it, you want to reflect on your daily activities before the day comes and see them happening successfully. Not just like, yo, when I go somewhere, I'm going to go to the gym for 71 hours. I'm going to get up healthy. I'm going to hydrate myself. I'm going to eat something that nourishes me. I'm going to walk outside into the universe with God and whoever you believe in, however you believe, and consciously accept the day. Thank you for showing up, by the way, Dean. And if you're out there, we struggle. Daily activities. Life is daily, is a repetition of daily activities that are more, it's not mundane, but it's more powerful than being on stage. It's getting to the stage. It's loving yourself, man, and being connected. It's root source, right? God, faith, honor, loyalty. I talk about all the time. Right. Let's go. Keep it coming here, Dean. I'm gonna talk through some more of these things about auditing your focus. Maybe it'll help. So we're in the consequence phase, right? We're talking about focus, and it can't be divided. If you don't audit your focus, your system will start auditing you. You lose hours to motion and wonder why your energy feels like erosion. Think about what we're talking about with Dean showing up, our friend. You'll keep showing up in rooms that don't reflect your covenant and calling it commitment. This is down to the daily activities. You'll execute for systems you never designed and call it survival when it was spiritual drift all along. What does your spirit actually want? You won't feel disconnected from God. You'll feel busy. You won't call it disobedience. You'll call it overcommitted. And worst of all, you'll call it a season when it was actually a system failure you never stopped to see. We're going to talk about how to. Those are some deep consequences. Let me check out on Dean here, my friend Dean. Here's how to lock this thing. And maybe it's daily activities. Thank you for blessing us with how you feel, man. It's important that we all know how we feel because we feel a lot of the same ways. Start your day by dividing it. Before you serve anyone else's agenda, ask, what part of today belongs to God? I believe deeply in God. If you don't want to say God, the infinite, if you have a different version of God, cool. But what part of my day belongs to my spirit? And then also ask, what part belongs to my apex? What are you moving towards? What do you see for yourself that is keeping you focused on the North Star per se, right? If we're always in the middle, what's back there is gone. What's ahead, you got to get towards. If I'm focused on getting there, it can help me move forward. If I'm focused in my spirit and I trust in God, well, then I have a lot of energy I can use. Use moments of drift, like you're drifting, like I did this morning, as audit alarms. The moment you lose clarity, maybe this is for you, Dean. You're losing some clarity. Pause real quick and ask, was this an intentional direction or a passive inheritance? Yo, you can intentionally direct yourself to stop. I talked about the limbic brain, fight, flight, freeze. So what I'm learning is a lot of us, because of the way the world is, we're in freeze mode. And we can't determine whether to move towards delight or plague. But if you freeze long enough, you're intentionally directing yourself to stay still, which means everything is passing you by. And now you got to get through with your daily activities. Then here's another thing right here. Look, close each day. The day to start the day. Thank you, my brother. I struggle very much in describing a task or briefing something about anything, but therefore I feel nervous. But from now on, good, yeah. Yo, accepting of that and saying it out loud, you're already working on it. You've already gone from standing still and freezing to taking a little step. Micro steps create macro distances. You got to also, I'm not going to sell you that everything's going to be all right today, but everything can be all right now if you focus on just today. And then when they talk about this in the space, it's because you got to repeat today and whatever gets you today, that brought you here today, that's going to make you feel good about today, and just stack days like that. That way your memory and your nervous system, it'll at least give it something to be conflicted about in both directions. So if you're constantly thinking about freezing and you're constantly thinking about nervousness, but you never think that nervousness is trying to tell you on the opposite side of nervousness is the love you seek for yourself, is the delight and the joy and the positiveness of consciousness. Your frequency is just off. You're on a different radio station. Turn the dial, right? But just because you turn the dial once and you get one good song, you got to go replay the song over and over and over again until you memorize it. That's memory, and that's representing. You got to represent yourself in the light so many times that when the dark comes, it's part of the light. And you can understand, oh, I bet. This move of darkness is just to remind me that there's light. Nervousness is trying to remind you that there's, and yo, I feel beautifully blessed every day, and it still gives me nervousness. It gives me nervousness to make sure I always feel beautifully blessed because I know what it's like to be opposite end of the spectrum. Not the opposite, but on that polarity. It's important we talk about poles. If you're going to work, and also if you're going to say it, Brother Dean, that you're going to work on it. Work on it. Don't lie to yourself. And also, if you're working on it right now, you've officially started. If you go run today, you're a runner. If you lift today, you're a lifter. If you go sing, you're a singer, and dance, you're a dancer. It's up to you to keep on going. Dance the dance of life. You know, the Spanish called about the bachata, whatever it is, you know, the two-step. Now, let's get into this because I think this is important. Close each day by reviewing focus, not just outcomes. So when I'm closing my day, it's not like, yo, did I hit the lotto? Did I, what did I receive as a reward or a trophy? Kill that. Ask yourself this. Where did your energy go? Where did your spirit feel most aligned? Your soul, man. Where did dominion leak? That's where the audit begins. You got to ask yourself this. Forget about where it got you. Sometimes it gets you down a deep, dark hole. Ask yourself about your energy. Let's get into the creation covenant loop, the ARR framework. Audit, remix, re-record, more positivity for you to take forward with you today. You got the call. Now move like it's recorded. Here's the audit. This is emotional memory, recall, identity. Important that you understand what that is. Ask yourself. These are questions, right? Audit. When did I start believing that being busy meant being in purpose? Just because you're doing things doesn't mean it's purposeful. When did I last feel truly focused, and what did it cost to get there? Now track the memory. That meeting you didn't want to say no to, that app you opened just to check and then 5 hours pass, that one yes, who were you saying yes to, that fractured your day into 5 meaningless tasks. Now remember this, that wasn't you in dominion, that was you in drift. You leased your soul. You let it go. You let somebody else cop it for gratis, free. And it costs you your time, your energy, your essence. Then you want to hit it with the remix. What are some of your thoughts? Because you've justified it. If I don't do it now, I'll fall behind. If I multitask, I'm optimizing. If I stay in motion, I'll eventually land where I belong. Those aren't apex thoughts. You're not spirited towards a centralized apex. They're system adaptations disguised as ambition. Here's a new thought. My focus is the signature of my sovereignty. So we go to the emotion, we go to the thought. Now we got to take action. We re-record. Today, dominate through division. Close an open tab. Some of you got like 91 tabs open on your phone. Close all of them. Cancel a non-covenant meeting. Create 60 minutes of undivided spiritual authorship. This means no phone, no noise, no filter. We're going to close this out, but I want to check on my brother real quick. Yo, you're welcome, man. Thank you for coming here and allowing me to be a help, because you helped me by even thinking I could help you, because I'm just like you. I'm just trying to figure out how we do this thing, man. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. All these things sound like when people say this to sell a t-shirt, there's a reason. Your conscious and your spirit. You gotta replenish your spirit and nourish your spirit and nurture yourself. Here's what you do not need. You do not need more motivation. You need fewer access points. Today, subtract what distracts and multiply what mirrors your mission. There is addition by subtraction, and subtraction by addition. Either way, you got to make space. And when you find out what you want, put a mirror in front of it and let it reflect all day. If you don't divide the day will divide you. You weren't built to serve distractions. You were built to govern destiny. One moment, one priority, one presence at a time. Own it or be owned by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.